While I could waffle on for a minute explaining myself, I think someone else would do a much better job.
What I'm about to tell you is something I know you're not going to believe. You're going to say, Charles, this is like Santa Claus, it's not real. It can't possibly be real.
I truly believe Elden Ring and its pantheon is based off Greek mythology. The implications this has for the story is massive, filling in some of the much needed blanks regarding Elden Ring and Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree story. If you do end up enjoying the video, and only if you enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. Without further ado, please sit back, relax, grab some succulent, juicy, tasty, and most importantly, mouth-watering prawns if you want, and enjoy as we delve into the incest kingdom of Greek mythology and how it relates to Elden Ring's story. TLDR quickly, I don't believe Greek mythology is Elden Ring, I more believe it's simply inspired by it. The first point of discussion I would love to discuss has to be Radagon. For a long time, Radagon's story has been hidden in the shadows of Marika. Yet if my theory is true, Radagon has a bigger role to play in Elden Ring's story than we could have imagined. I believe Radagon actually represents Zeus. We know Radagon is a god like Zeus, and like Zeus, Radagon wields a bolt of lightning in his boss fight. But this is not all. In item descriptions it states, every giant is red of hair, and Radagon was said to have despised his own red locks. Perhaps that was a curse of their kind. It does not state what type of giant Radagon is or who he is cursed by. While Elden Ring could definitely be hinting at Giganance, though I'm like 99% sure I've just butchered the shit out of that name. Giganance, or however the hell you pronounce it, is the Greek word for giants, a race descended from Gaia. Honestly, I think it's more likely the term giant in regards to Elden Ring is referring to the colossal size of giants. In Greek mythology, it's never said how big Kronos is, Zeus' father. But we do know after he weds his sister Rhea, by whom he helps birth 3 daughters and 3 sons, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades and Poseidon, and lastly Zeus. He eats 5 of them, leaving only Zeus. When Zeus returns and frees them, they're already adults. To fit 5 adults in someone's stomach, you've got to be really big, so that kind of tells me Kronos is a big guy. Perhaps this fits the giant terminology inside of Elden Ring. This would also explain why Radagon despises his red hair, for perhaps it reminds him of his father. While on the discussion of Kronos and Rhea's youngest children, let's talk about the others and their correlation to Elden Ring's story. Starting off simple, I believe Radagon is inspired by Zeus. Taking this into consideration, the obvious answer as to who Hera is quite simple, that being Marika. And considering Marika is also stated to be a god, it makes a ton of sense. This is further reinforced by Hera, who has a wrathful nature to those who have wronged her. For example, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree's horn scent with Marika. A bit too much of a coincidence? I don't think so. The remaining children are not yet so simple. Hades is a bloke all throughout Greek mythology, and yet the only person I can really think of to take the spot of Hades is the Glowmide Queen. Both govern death and both are associated with death. Now if this is the case, this answers so many questions towards the origins of the Glowmide Queen. Perhaps all along she was the sister to Marika, a theory that as of late has been gaining a lot of attraction. And if you take into consideration this theory, proves it further. If this theory is true, then it also helps further the idea that Melina perhaps inherited the powers of the Glowmide Queen, instead of actually being the Glowmide Queen. I still really like the idea that Melina is the Glowmide Queen, but I really thought it was important to bring up this possibility. Another one of the siblings I believe we can come to a conclusion on with current information has to be Poseidon. The Blue Dancer is said to have sealed an outer god of rot, and was said to have trained Melania, the blade of Miquella, the blade. But apart from that and his eccentric style, we know next to nothing about him. Yet if this theory is true, we now know. The Blue Dancer is said to have commanded a flowing blade, patterned after water. This connection to water is never explained, nor the blue fairy he supposedly gets it from. But if he is the representation of Poseidon, who is the god of the sea, then this makes a lot more sense. It also explains how he sealed away an outer god. Even if it was a physical representation, we are told a man cannot kill a god on multiple occasions. So how could he? You might be thinking, well, we can. So why does this matter? Well, considering factors like us being able to almost kill gods, the mausoleum bells ringing at the start of the game, and the guidance of grace still guiding us, a common theory is that we are a demigod. So if that gives us the power to kill a god, perhaps the power to kill an outer god or seal it is found in gods, which is exactly what Poseidon is. Plus, how on earth did the blind dancer survive so long as to teach Melania, assuming it was a long distance in between? Perhaps because gods are, immortal? Maybe I'm reaching. I'd love to hear what you all have to say. The identities and correlation to Hestia and Demeter are a little trickier. Hestia seems to represent Melina and Lot. Hestia is the goddess of the domestic and civil hearth, the home, sacred and sacrificial fire, and so many others. This seems very, very similar to Melina. Melina is a sacrificial fire maiden who is possibly the daughter of Marika, who is a god. While the obvious answer is that Hestia just has not had any inspiration inside of Elden Ring, but I want to take this a step further into a very speculative direction. The erdtree was not always the Golden Orders. The erdtree is a parasite. So when Melina goes, "Oh hey, my mom kinda went and told me to be a sacrificial fire slave inside the erdtree," it doesn't say what age or give any further detail on this mother. I'm not totally convinced myself, but I thought I'd give you this possibility at least. As for Demeter, I really don't think we know them. Though I don't doubt they exist, just perhaps they are far away or long gone by the events of Elden Ring. The one thing I am sure of is that whoever they represent is a sibling of Marika. Just before we go any further, I want to talk to you about why exactly this connection to Greek mythology is so important. George R.R. Martin, who worked on the backstory of Elden Ring's world, absolutely bloody loves to take inspiration from the real world. His most memorable example for me being in his book series Song of Ice and Fire, where the Unsullied are given a puppy to take care of. After a year, he's made to strangle that puppy and kill it. If he is unable, he's skinned and fed to the remaining dogs, which to a certain extent is what the German SS soldiers did in World War II. They were given puppies at the start of their training to raise, and then they were required to kill the dogs at the end of the training. Point being, these inspirations do play a role in the development of these stories, especially the ones with George R.R. Martin in them. It has also been said that the original backstory Martin wrote was twisted by Miyazaki, and I do believe that exact point is seen with the next character, that being Miquella. Hebe is the Greek goddess of eternal youth and old age, prime of life and forgiveness. Hebe is born of Zeus and Hera, aka Radagon and Marika, and is one of the few gods in Greek mythology who has no evil written about her. She is purity manifested. Amongst the brother-loving, sister-fucking ways of the Greek pantheon, this purity is exactly how Miquella is described, except his or her story has been flipped on its head. Miquella is youth personified, and is so blinded by his naivety that he commits heinous crimes and actions. I honestly really love the twisting of this Greek counterpart. The idea that the goddess of eternal youth could be consumed by what she represents is a really interesting idea. You cannot talk about Miquella without talking about Saint Trina. Although her abilities and alignments lean towards gods of sleep like Hypnos or Morpheus, Zeus and Hera do not produce such a child. So whether or not Saint Trina is represented by any god of sleep is up to you. Perhaps she was taking inspiration from them, but is not actually supposed to majorly represent them. So whether or not Saint Trina is represented by any god is up to you. But it is worth mentioning, Hebe is a goddess of forgiveness, which Saint Trina, Miquella's other half, has in plenty as seen in her quest. So maybe Saint Trina and Miquella are a split in half version of Hebe. Though, again, it's up to you, and I'm really curious to see what you all have to say about it. Melania, Miquella's twin, also has a Greek counterpart, that being, I believe, Athena. Athena is the goddess of wisdom, warfare and handicraft. And although Athena is only a child of Zeus and not Zeus and Hera, I think there's too much evidence towards Melania being represented by her to ignore. Item descriptions say that before the Scarlet Rot infliction, Melania's great room was to be the most sacred of all. Athena is seen as a very sacred and pure character in Greek mythology. And like Miquella's purity is twisted and broken into 1,000 pieces, she still remains a master of warfare and wisdom, but that sacred nature and purity is tainted by the Scarlet Rot. Even without the next part, the connection seems quite evident. And yet, like Athena, Melania produces mind babies. Millicent and her Scarlet sisters are heavily hinted to be Melania's daughters, yet we do not have any information as to a father or how they were born. Hell, where they even fit in the timeline is a mystery, yet I believe this explains it. I believe Melania's daughters are mind babies, just like how Athena can create mind babies inside of Greek mythology. Something you may or may not believe is that Ranni and her siblings also have a role in all of this. Ranni is heavily involved with moons, and so is Artemis. Artemis, who is the god of virginity, the hunt and so many others, is the daughter of Zeus and another woman. Just like in Elden Ring, where Ranni is the daughter of Radagon and Rennala. Although we are Ranni's consort in game, we do know her body is really dead, leaving only a reanimated puppet. Likely chance from this, reproduction is probably impossible, so that leaves her an eternal virgin, something which Artemis is heavily represented by in Greek mythology. And while not as concrete as Artemis, there are so many connections between Radahn and Apollo. Though just to preface, the connections between Apollo and Radahn aren't as concrete as Artemis and Ranni. Apollo is often seen in descriptions with a bow and arrow, something Radahn has at all times in his boss fight and uses a lot. He's also the god of oracles, oracles being people who can see into the future. Radahn is known for holding back the fate in the stars. Now 100% this could have been sprung on him at a moment's notice. He could have been sipping down, having a pina colada, just chilling, and they came. But wouldn't it be far more interesting if he knew it was going to happen? Not to mention oracles are inside of Elden Ring. One of the last demigods I want to talk about in today's video has to be Messmer. I actually believe he's embodied by Ares, god of war and courage. You see, Ares is born from Hera and Zeus, which, as we know from this video, most likely represents Radagon and Marika. We know Marika sent Messmer off to the lands of shadow to go slaughter the Hornsent for their crimes. We know that he embodies the physical valour necessary for success in war, but also personifies sheer brutality and bloodlust. While I definitely sympathise with Messmer, and I do think he's a really tragic character, every single story has got a bit of truth to it, and I'm sure every single tale told about Messmer's tyranny and all these evil things aren't so baseless as to think none of them are true. The other demigods are quite hard to place, and while there are some loose connections, I don't believe there's any more that have a major significance to Elden Ring's story. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. This video was beyond a blast to make. I really hope you all enjoyed as much as I did making it. If you did end up enjoying, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Without any more faffing around, don't you dare go hollow, friends, and may you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.